the Association for Death Education and Counseling bring you this special Virtual Service of Remembrance. Sponsored by Funeral Service Foundation, helping funeral service professionals build meaningful relationships with families and communities. Support the families you serve with tools and resources that promote healthy, healing memorialization experiences, available free at funeralservicefoundation.org.
Hello, I'm Brenda Atkinson.
I'm Harold Ivan Smith.
I'm Galen Goben.
And I'm Faye Green.
And we would like to welcome you today to the ADEC Service of Remembrance. Since ancient times, when death has interrupted a life, a tribe, and a community, humans gather, and they felt the need to take a deliberate pause. You may recall from Westerns when they had a gunfight that they would take the body to bury it, and many would go along to make sure it was respectfully done. And then someone would say a few words. Sometimes when people do not know what to say, they gather. Sometimes when people do not know how to feel, they gather. Sometimes when people are afraid, confused, angered, overwhelmed, they gather. Sometimes because people do not know or want death and injustice to have the final answer or the final word, they gather. Over the years, when ADEC has gathered, it has been important to include a memorial service. When those first ADEC memorial services were held, candles were lit, names were called, and someone offered a few words. Could any individual in those early ADEC years and the memorial services have imagined the circumstances as we gather at this moment? Could any ADEC member have imagined a global pandemic? Could any ADEC member have imagined having to cancel an annual conference? Could any ADEC member in those days of overhead projectors and mimeograph handouts have imagined the digital technology that gathers us this June day in 2020 to remember to honor our dead? Not in one room like before, not near enough to squeeze a hand or hand someone a tissue, but literally wherever we are. In this service, we will light 3 candles and explore 3 themes.
We light a candle in the darkness of a pandemic. We light a candle in a darkness we can feel, taste, almost touch, a darkness that insists that we socially distance. The darkness is heightened because we cannot touch or hug the basic punctuation of compassion and condolence. Never could we have imagined the imposition on our minds and souls of being unable to fully, appropriately ritual. Never could we have imagined rituals limited to 10 people. This pandemic has broken our hearts, troubled our minds, tested our professional boundaries and competencies, stretched our anxieties, yet deepened our compassion. This pandemic has touched every dimension of what it means to be a loving and loved human being. This pandemic has denied us, because of the masks we wear, to see smiles and to be warmed by those smiles. This pandemic has upheaved the way we serve, listen, care, and grieve. Nothing in our professional graduate training or in continuing education programs has prepared us for being called to serve, in the words of the ancient Hebrew narrative of Esther, for such a time as this. Because we have no idea when this pandemic will end, uncertainty keeps us awake in the nights and douses happiness. This pandemic has imposed restrictions on our ways of caring for our loved ones, for expressing our compassion, of running our offices or classrooms. Too many have been denied the moment of holding a loved one's hand at the end. Too many are ensconced in guilt for not having been there with or for their loved one. This pandemic has rekindled fears, anxieties, middle-of-the-night concerns that grievers in individual sessions or in groups have described to us. We have no immunity to the pandemic touching our loved ones, our colleagues, our clients, our students, our readers. None of us are immune from the haunting, will it strike me or the ones I love? This pandemic leaves us more questions than we can answer or even put into words. Thankfully, the poet Rilke gives us a place to start. He writes, I would like to beg you, dear sir, as well as I can, to have patience with everything unresolved in your heart and to try to love the questions themselves as they are locked in rooms or books written in a foreign language. Don't search for the answers, which could be given to you now because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps then, someday, far into the future, you will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way into an answer. So, we will live each day, each hour, with hope, and light this candle to recognize what we have lost and what we still hope for.
We light a second candle for a mystery or a menace named COVID-19. Just hearing the word gives us pause. When, how, where, we have to confront it again. In the darkness of COVID-19, we have been inspired by courageous individuals who have stepped forward and who have kept stepping forward day after day, night after night, despite physical, emotional, spiritual exhaustion. We're inspired by those individuals who have no assurance for their own safety, but offer compassionate care. Counselors, nurses, doctors, psychologists, EMRs, funeral directors, police officers, and firemen, nursing assistants. Some of these are our own ADEC colleagues. Most of these are heroes we will never know. Day after day, we have admired and applauded them. And we have wondered if we could respond to the call as generously as they have. We did not know, nor had we ever imagined, that a sneeze or a cough could travel so far. We have been taught to say Gesundheit or God bless you or whatever the cultural equivalent is, which is really a prayer for protection. COVID-19 has ramshackled our long list of assumptions and predictabilities. COVID-19 has damaged the income of our clients and our agencies, and also damaged our own incomes and our financial securities. COVID-19 has closed our sacred settings at a time we most want to pray, or to try to pray, to cry out, to wait in silence, perhaps wail. It has turned our professional training programs and continuing education formats upside down. COVID-19 has thwarted those anticipated joyous transitions, graduations, whether kindergartners in their caps and gowns, or high school graduates, or doctoral candidates who have studied and worked and clinicked to a moment to be hooded. Weddings, golden anniversaries, bar and bat mitzvahs, retirements, going away celebrations have been canceled or indefinitely postponed. COVID-19 has robbed us of the experience of gathering for ADEC, presenting papers, serving on panels, browsing posters, sitting by colleagues during keynotes, communicating by smiles, asking, "How are you doing?" sharing meals and sessions. We have not been able to welcome our first-timers and applaud individuals the association has recognized for scholarship, clinical practice, and service. We have not been able to say, "What are you doing for dinner? Meet me in the lobby at 6." And while investigating our panic, our worlds have been jarred by images of unspeakable, unimaginable acts of violence and racism. We grieve because a great wound we pretended to be healed has burst open. We grieve for individuals whose images intrude into our worlds as a result of trauma, violence, disaster, prejudice, or injustice. We grieve for those outrageous losses of human spirits, aware that such losses have occurred too many times. Across continents, throughout different nations, within various cultures and tribes, injustice, racism, and the effects they produce has caused violence and suffering. Each in our own culture and surroundings have names of those who have suffered and died because they were viewed as less than. We light a candle for all those whose lives have been ended without their permission. We light a candle reminded of the wisdom of a rabbi to his students. You know that light has appeared out of darkness when you can see in the face of another human being the face of a sister or a brother. Perhaps even thanatologists at times limit grief to losses like death, whether predicted, traumatic, or natural. Now we are coming to know how wide the breadth of things grievable, regrettable. Now we are coming to know the countless settings which grief springs up, leaks out, consumes. We are coming to learn to grieve for losses we could not have named or imagined. We grieve for the loss of being spontaneous, and we grieve for human touch. We grieve because we are unable to know when and how we can jettison this grief and resume our priorities, our predictable lives, and our professional practices. We grieve more than we ever imagined we could grieve.
We light the third candle in hope. Perhaps you attended previous ADEC memorial services when you came with a name to be honored, whether a colleague, family member, spouse, or mentor. You anticipated this time in a packed program. When you heard a particular name called, recalled a face, a memory, an act of kindness, you took a moment to mourn. There was something meaningful about sitting in a candle-lit, hushed room after a long day and with stomachs growling, because it was important to gather. Those moments reminded us, perhaps, reassured us that someday our name would be called out, our contributions remembered in an ADEC memorial service. So although we have gathered in a circumstances unwanted, in a setting that is technologically challenging and limiting. We intentionally and deliberately remember. Please join in a moment of silence. Please use this time to welcome memories of that individual that you honor.
Samuel F. Hoser, Alex Smith, Bernard Bernie Freidenberg, Linda H. Krieger, Jean Bishop, MD, Morris Sugarman, Ruth Butcher, Francis Deacon Spellman, Gary Itzkovitz, Richard Chasman, Mary Tinsky, Ella Westerman Zukoff, Joe Brinman, Elaine Hoffman Watts, Robert M. Cohen, MD, Ron Abrams, Lou Waronker, Ruth Lieberman Friss, Ron Fishman, Jerry Ansel, Barbara L. Strauss, MD, Thomas Eugene Dahl, Eileen Rogers, Robin B. Best, Genevieve Vane Berner, Bill Cooper, Aaron Zuckerman, Roberta Ehrenberg, Jean Resnick Blum, Rabbi Meyer Kramer, Rochelle Skolsky Felixson, Marcia Hoffman Hutchinson, Jay Kravitz, Elliot Sommer, Jan Al-Mashad, my twin sister, Krisie Ann, Harold and Irene Baker, Dalton and Marie Rosenberry, John and Donna Schlegel, Cynthia Bixler, Zachary Davis, Deborah Gunno, Juanita Weaver, Marjorie Mills, Thomas Mills, Angel Quiones, Rico Martino, Mozart Martino, Sweet Pea Martino, Mary Jackson, Kristin Nina Westmoreland, Christopher Seuter, Norma B. Potter, William Henry Cochran, John Donovan, Keith Anthony Kelly, Bernice Deacons Hogue, Tamarcus Williams, Delois McClendon Luckett, Leslie McClendon Luckett, Brownie Luckett, Jason Stallnecker, Charles H. Freeman Jr., Wong Waiman, Peter Ennis, David William White, Susie Carter, Maryann Putman, John Tomczak, Julie and Maryann Trachtenberg. Robert Pesci, Barbara Pesci, Lori Brigantino, Joanne Villa, Harvey Gipple, Dean Howard Blair, Rick Plunkett, Richard Harding Plunkett, William Mark Greathouse, Hope Concanen Drain, Regina Tukash, Joe McCunis, Frank Drake, Tiffany Gee, Salvador Santiesteban Jr., Carolina Gomez, Socorro Gomez, Salvador Santiesteban Sr., George J. Lingual Jr., George J. C. Lingual, Catherine Weiss, Daryl Lingual, Catherine Hewitt, Paul L. Hewitt, Dom John Farrelly, Abbott Aidan Shea, Tom and Goldie Wolf, Glenn and Ida Maxwell, Gary Davis, Randy Wiles, Mark Wiles, Sean Patrick McCarthy, Archie McClern, Ruth McClern, Louise Weidel, Jack Weidel, Gordy Charles Murray, Peter Grad, Thomas Tuck Franklin McAfee III, Don Hooper, Brad O'Rear, Nick Andrew Scoggins, Lee N. Jones Jr., Lois V. Clark, Sally Francis Connor, C. W. Trimble, Velma Rory, Caleb Norman, Eleanor May, Wanda Smith, Father Richard Brown, Eva Dunn, Elbert Dunn Sr., Elbert Dunn Jr., Marcelino Montalvo, Nancy Beasley, John Adams, Carmen Alvarez Santiago, Joshua Gosoy, Ricky Elderkin, Dusty Elderkin, Scott Burrell, Lisa Galm, Scott Fincher, Joe Bona, June Capiche, Nadia Rovedo, Jack Adinolfi, Rita Adinolfi, Patricia Adinolfi, Eleanor Adinolfi, Nicholas Cota, Marion Sauer, Robert Sauer, Barbara Sommerfield, Don Regali, Phil Smith, George Floyd, Brianna Taylor, Ahmad Aubrey, Nurse Joan F. Monaghan, Eugene E. McDowell, Ph.D., Jesus Avendano, U.S. Air Force retired Master Sergeant Billy C. Wheat, and Timothy A. Kennedy. And now we remember those who have died due to COVID-19. Natalie Kaplan, Mary Yoder, Paul Norman Hansen, Ruthie Lindell, Matt Perkins, hospice patients from VNA, Joshua Singer, Margaret Hayes, Pastor Joe Nathan Hunter Sr., Bishop Victor Sandiford, Laura Deckelman, Hal Wilner, Kathy Hedden, Rich Call, patients of Hospice of Piedmont, Sam Ingle Sr., Josephine, Elizabeth DaCosta Ahern, Gabby Adiv, Michael Gottlieb, Dan Spector, Vincenzo Manzoni, Camilo Rafael Manzoni, Paul Pearson, Catherine Wisniewski, and Hector Rivera.
When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I've made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited the world. Those we have remembered, those we have named, did not simply visit this world.
Please join with me if you would so desire. Oh, they are not dead, who live in lives and hearts and memories they left behind. They are not dead as long as their names are spoken. They are not dead as long as their stories are told. They are not dead as long as tears flow upon hearing their favorite song. They are not dead because they live along the corridors of our souls. They are not dead when smiles come more often than tears. They are not dead when we dance with their memories in the grand ballroom of life. Even when some may protest, they are dead. No, they are not dead.
As has happened in many previous ADECs, we have gathered. We have spoken aloud names. We have remembered. Now we must return to the realities of life and our professional service in a pandemic, in a time of social shifts, knowing that we are not alone. May their memory to us be a blessing. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed. Thank you for joining us today with this ADEC Service of Remembrance. We appreciate you coming and being here with us. We hope that you found comfort and those around you have found comfort. Now may we go forth in protection, peace, and healing.
The Association for Death Education and Counseling would like to thank you for attending the Service of Remembrance. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Funeral Service Foundation. The Funeral Service Foundation helps funeral service professionals build meaningful relationships with families and communities. Support the families you serve with tools and resources that promote healthy, healing memorialization experiences, available free at funeralservicefoundation.org.